Do is we are going to talk about building a newsletter people pay attention to and pay for. So there's a few things. There's sort of building the newsletter in terms of the tools you need. Then there's building a newsletter that generates revenue and grows. And then there's also, you need to think about what you need to do outside of the platform, outside of the tools to create a newsletter, which Millie will have fantastic insight as well. So we're going to go over how beehiiv's top publishers monetize, grow, and sustain their newsletters. Speaking about a couple different examples, but mainly speaking about the generalist way that you can do this, touch on that generalist word. So what we're going to cover, I'm going to make everybody a little bit smaller because it's taking up half my screen. So we're going to speak about the opportunity. So newsletters are the highest growth margin, highest margin communication channel today. What we're seeing a lot is people who become their own business and go online to make money online and grow online and move away from the 9 to 5. There's a load of different channels that you can use across social media, but newsletter is the highest margin channel. The newsletters that you send go to your audience. There's not lost to an algorithm. You own your audience, and then you can build a business off the back of that. We're going to speak about the revenue playbook. So how you can actually turn a newsletter into a revenue generating machine. There's a load of different ways, and I'll touch on how beehiiv allows this and allows you to keep all of your money. We're going to do a quick platform walkthrough, as I mentioned. So show you beehiiv, show you what it looks like. You can figure out if it fits your needs or if it's not. If it's not, there's a ton of different platforms that work. And lastly, we'll do a quick Q&A. So quickly touch up the opportunity, giving a bit of context. I'll just keep an eye on time. If you see me looking to the right, I'm keeping an eye on time. The opportunity. So as I mentioned before, it's the highest margin communication channel. Email marketing by 2027 will be close to 20 billion. The ROI is insane. It's like any other tool. You invest a couple of pounds, a couple of dollars. I'm not sure where everybody is based, a couple of euros. And on average, you make $36 for every dollar you put into the channel. The reason being, there's no algorithm. You can go direct to your audience and it's relatively fairly cheap. On beehiiv, it's free up to 2,500 subscribers, and then we have paid tiers, so you can even have it completely for free. And there's half the world have email, so there's a massive, massive opportunity of people to reach. So what's needed? Just in terms of the tools, what's needed for a newsletter, we're keeping this fairly basic, but the high level is you need a platform that will allow you to publish. So you need to be able to send your newsletters. You need to be able to design the newsletters, set up a landing page for people to come and see. Grow. You can grow the newsletter in a ton of different ways. So you can do it across social. You can create lead magnets. You can speak to your friends and family. But having a tool that allows you to grow by just using the tool takes a lot of stress off your plate. You don't need multiple platforms, multiple logins. You just need to focus on that one platform. Monetization. The first stage is growing the newsletter, getting up to 1,000, 2,000, 65,000 subscribers. That's the hard bit. The easy bit is just switch on those monetization tools, whether that's running ads, having paid subscriptions, selling digital products, selling some information that the reader wants to get access to. That's the second stage after growing it. And then lastly, you want to know your audience. You want to be sending out surveys. You want to be seeing who's opening, who's unsubscribing, sending unsubscribing flows, all of those different things. Those are the tools that you need for the newsletter. It's just 4 main tools, all of which can be achieved on beehiiv. So, and then what do you need to write a newsletter outside of the tools? So some ideas that you can use for a newsletter that always come up time and time again. So a strong point of view. You have information that people are interested in. They want to know what that is. So you want to have an opinion, back up that opinion with research and say what you know, because you are the expert. Knowing your reader deeply is also super, super helpful. Maybe that's sending out surveys to know what people are interested in, what they're not interested in, where your readers are based, what companies they work for, if they're self-employed, what line of business they're in, anything like that. Knowing your audience allows you to write a better, more structured newsletter. Showing up consistently. Now, this is arguably one of the hardest parts of writing a newsletter. Millie, I'm sure you're aware of this. It's sending consistently. having newsletters go out at the same time each week, or if it's bi-weekly or if it's monthly, whatever your cadence, but sending consistently. The newsletter readers are more likely to trust you if you send that newsletter consistently. They know on a Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. commuting into work that they are going to receive your newsletter, and it's up to the publisher to ensure that they're consistent. And then giving before you ask, knowing that what you're sharing with the audience is of value to them. You're not just, so what a lot of people have been doing more recently have been generating what we call AI slop. Hey, ChatGPT, Claude, could you write me a newsletter on the World Cup? Whatever that might be, just think off the top of my head. And it comes across as AI slop. So you need to give the readers something that is of value of them before you ask for anything in return, before you ask them to subscribe or do a paid subscription or buy a digital product. It all comes down to writing something that people can trust. So now speaking about growth, how can you grow a newsletter? As I mentioned, there's a handful of different channels outside of this. I'm going to speak about beehiiv specific ones. So outside of beehiiv, you can run paid ads on Meta. You can speak to friends and family. I met somebody who spoke to me about their newsletter in person at a cafe. You can use social media to promote it. There's loads of different ways, but touching on the tools that you need to grow in your newsletter and just having one platform that allows you to do all of that. With beehiiv, we have boosts, which essentially are paid ads. So usually you can monetize a newsletter through running ads for a brand. What you can also do is you can run ads for newsletters. So you can pay other newsletters a fixed dollar amount for every subscriber they send your way. So if you have a bit of budget, putting that into growing, and it can work the other way, where you make money from your newsletter by boosting other publications and invest that back into growth. Recommendations. So working with other newsletter writers to grow your own. There's a network of different newsletters, and every time you subscribe to one, they can recommend up to 4 different newsletters, and you can recommend each other, and it can just grow and grow that way. There's a ton of different newsletters. Millie, I'm not sure how many you have recommending you, but there's people on our platform who have hundreds of different people recommending their newsletter, and it's a great way to grow. And then lastly is referrals. It's similar to the newsletter. The newsletter is something of value that people want to get access to, people want to know. So you can put something of value. Maybe it's a PDF, for example, a one-pager on how to grow your social media. You can put that behind a subscriber referral on beehiiv so that I, as the reader, need to send Millie's newsletter to 2 or 3 different of my friends. Once they subscribe, I get access to that PDF. It's just like a lead magnet, but it allows your readers to turn into the evangelists, and it allows the growth to just multiply and multiply. And now speak about monetization. Growing is step 1. Step 2 is monetizing, turning that audience into an audience that you can commit to, because running a newsletter, writing a newsletter, it takes time. So you need to invest in the newsletter so it can grow, and then you can invest it continually. So first thing, running ads. beehiiv has an integrated ad network, which essentially means you can log on to your platform, you open the ad network, and there's an array of different ads that are at the table. You can pick which one you want. There's pre-generated image, text, calls to action, things like that. You can do it with one subscriber. I have a newsletter which is nowhere near as good as Millie's. I run ads in it. It's super, super straightforward. Still getting started though, so we're getting there. Next is paid subscriptions. So this typically comes slightly later down the line. Some people kick off a newsletter straight away with paid subscriptions. But what people typically do is they grow, give people loads of free information and say, hey, I actually have other information that I'm going to put behind a paywall. You could do that on beehiiv, certain bits of newsletter or an entire newsletter. I know somebody writing a mergers and acquisition newsletters where it's all paid subscriptions. beehiiv takes 0% of the revenue that you generate, unlike other platforms. So that's a great way of growing your newsletter financially. And lastly is digital products. So outside of the newsletter, what else do you have that you can sell to your audience? Your newsletter has loads of information that's really, really helpful for the audience to read and digest and understand. But do you have any one pages? Do you have any secret links that people want to get access to that they might not have access to already? Anything like that, any digital product can be sold through beehiiv. Again, all of these, I just mentioned paid subscriptions, but ads, paid subscriptions, digital products, you keep 100% of the revenue you make on beehiiv. Now, going into it slightly more detail, ads, filling those out into 2. The ad network, as I mentioned, is a network of ads that are pre-negotiated. They're auto-matched to your newsletter and they're done based on performance. Boost, it runs just like an ad. Instead of advertising a brand, you're advertising another newsletter. Both of these, there's no invoicing needed. It's revenue at the click of a button that comes through straight into your account. Paid subscriptions. So there's a ways of adding these. You can either have it in gated content. So you can either have it's specific bits of a newsletter gated. Maybe that's a recap of a YouTube video you've posted. Maybe that's a special insight that it's not available in the free newsletter. Or you can have a built-in paywall where entire newsletters are gated. So to being a paid subscriber, you might get access to 2 newsletters a week, sorry. Being a free subscriber, you might only get access to one. Tiered membership. So there's a load of different tiers that you can set up. It's not just free and paid. You might have gold, silver, bronze. You might have premium, founding member, whatever that might be. You can have as many different tiers as you want, and you can toggle what access to these readers get on each tier. And lastly, you decide the price, whatever you want. You can change the price from monthly, quarterly to annual. You can offer discounts. You can make it super, super, super custom. And also you can chat to your readers, look at the analytics, see what's working, and update the prices as you go on. Lastly, digital products. What can you sell? It all goes back to selling your expertise. What do you know that can be of value to somebody else? You might have 10 years of experience in a specific industry that somebody wants to know more about. You can run paid webinars. We class those as digital products, digital assets. That might be a PDF, a link, anything like that, or consulting time. For example, our CEO, Tyler, has a newsletter. He sells one-on-one newsletter consulting for $1,000 an hour. So there's an incredible revenue opportunity with digital products as well. A quick example of the financial side of things, just showing you that you can make money with a newsletter. So Stephen Van, this is purely through our ad network. So he made $20,000 through the ad network. Stephen has a much smaller newsletter, which is all about product marketing. You can also make money from ads in another way. You can find, the reason I didn't touch on it is because it's a slightly more time consuming thing, but it's a great way of generating revenue. You can go and find your own advertisers yourself, just like you'd cold email somebody. If anything, it was sales related, you just get in touch with them, telling them about your newsletter. What stats do you have? How can that brand get value from your newsletter? And then you can get a fixed payment. So it might be $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 for an advertising placement. The reason I touch on the ad network, the billing's already done, the text is there, the image is there, the call to action's there, and it's seamless. So Stephen, that's generating revenue straight through the ad network. And then Tyler's touching on digital products. He made 7.5 grand, excuse me, for 15 minutes of work. He had a digital product. In this sort of image, he's got his $1,000 consulting session, but he had a digital product which was $10, which was how to raise a Series B. He knew that. He has experience. So you just need to find, what do you have experience in that you can put in a PDF that costs $10. And once you have that newsletter, once you've grown that newsletter, you can send that PDF to them and say, hey, if you're interested in learning even more, I have a newsletter. You keep all of the cash. beehiiv doesn't take a cut. It's just sharing information and putting a price tag on it. So now we're going to go through a quick platform walkthrough. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm just going to quickly mention we've partnered with Millie, so there is a discount code if you're interested in using beehiiv. It's 30% off your first 3 months with the code Millie30. We'll send that in post. We'll send that in post webinar comms, but just bear that in mind. So let me go to the newsletter. So what I'm going to quickly be doing is I'm going to be sharing. My colleague has a much better newsletter than myself. So he's very kindly let me demoed his newsletter on the beehiiv platform. I'll try and keep this to about 15, 20 minutes. The beehiiv platform it's very expansive. It was initially a newsletter platform, as I mentioned, but we've grown. So you have a website. It's not just a landing page. You can link to any other sites. You can put in YouTube videos. You can put in podcast episodes. We have a link in bio. You can show past newsletters. It essentially turns having an audience into an entire business. You don't need Squarespace. You don't need Wix. With beehiiv, you get the newsletter and you get the website. Podcasts, you can now host podcasts. It was worth me actually clicking on these things. So here's what the newsletter looks, the website looks like. Nav bar, you have loads of different bits of information. It's a very, very, very simple drag and drop. Jake, who's the head of product, he writes a newsletter on behind the scenes of beehiiv in terms of the product, what he's learned. He started his own business called EvoPass, so he's written about that. He essentially has about 10 years experience in product. His newsletter is all about product. That's what he knows, and that's what value he's sharing. So who's reading the newsletter? You can literally go drag and drop. You have a range of different tools that you can add. There's there's multiple templates that you can use, or once you're familiar with a platform, you drag and drop. If you click on a specific image, you can edit that on the right-hand side. Every beehiiv website is completely unique. There's tools that you can use, and we have templates set, but you can make it completely unique. I will show you good websites. I'll quickly do this now. Goodwebsites.io. This website has been built on beehiiv, and it shows you all the different beehiiv websites that are possible. It's completely customizable. You don't necessarily know you're on a beehiiv site, so you get that along with the newsletter. Next, podcasts. So Jake doesn't have a podcast, but you can host a podcast on beehiiv. You can upload shows. You can paywall certain bits of content. You can import shows from other platforms or create them yourself on your own platform, add transcript, chapters, stream them on other platforms. And all of this is done within the same ecosystem. What a lot of people do who have newsletters, they'll typically have a podcast, a lot of people vice versa. And if they have one, the other subsequently follows. With beehiiv, you can connect the two so that your newsletter grows your podcast and your podcast grows your newsletter. You don't need to worry about logging into Megaphone. You don't need to worry about logging into Squarespace for your website or anything like that. Community, will touch on that slightly later. Subscribers. Here's how you can go through your subscribers. You can see all of the different subscribers who are on your newsletter. You can segment them. So you can create different segments, see how they've opened, define specific criteria. If we click on one, for example, you can see, oh, this is just Jake doing his own product purchases. Here we go, completed form. He's set up certain bits of criteria where you set certain criteria and the number of creators that hit that criteria come into the segment, and then you can create automations off the back of this. So when your newsletter grows, you can have specific segments. One that's really popular to keep your newsletter clean is unengaged subscribers. These are subscribers who haven't opened an email in the last 3 months. You can create a segment on beehiiv, and then you can tie that to an automation where you mark those as inactive. The reason being, you want to keep your newsletter as healthy as possible. Healthy means you have a high open rate and a high click-through rate. This way, when you go to advert, or tells two ways. The first way is deliverability. High open rate, high click-through rate shows the inbox providers that you are a legitimate newsletter and that it's worth opening. The second part is making money off your newsletter. So if you have a higher open rate and a higher click-through rate, those are the bits of information that you really share with the brands, because that determines how many eyeballs are going to be on your newsletter. If you have 1 million subscribers and a 10% open rate, it's not that great of a sign. Whereas if you have 100,000 newsletter with a 50% open rate, although it's less eyeballs because it's 50% off 100,000, it's a much better sign. The people who are reading your newsletter are genuine subscribers and they're engaged. In terms of the automations, there's a handful of automations that Jake set up. He's not labeled them. You can. They're all drafts. What you can do is you can tie an automation to a segment. So when somebody enters into an segment, there's an entire workflow that's generated. This, for example, it's very straightforward, but you can add multiple branches. You can add true, false. You can update the data of a specific subscriber. Essentially, all of these tools, what they boil down to and what they try and achieve is you've grown your newsletter, but these automations, as Millie says, allow you to spend more time touching grass. You create the segments, you create the automations. All you need to do is think of the newsletter, hit send once a week, twice a week, however often you want to send. The automations of the segments are in place to keep the newsletter clean, keep it healthy, update subscriber information, send them automatic emails, send them upsells, whatever it is. It allows it to be treated a bit like a CRM. The growth tools allow it to grow in the background. Monetization tools allow you to monetize without having to find any monetization tools. It's all within the platform. Now, going into, so I spoke about growth and monetization. I'm going to show you what that actually looks like. When you're in the dashboard, you can see that we send you different ad offers and $2.06 per click. So they're performance-based ads. Going into it in more depth, so you can see all your different offers. You can see reports on how well they're doing. There's offers that have come to you, or you can go to the ad network, the marketplace, and see different ad opportunities that could work for you. We send these to we send these to you based on how you set up your newsletter, what content you're writing about, things like that. So you don't need to be a sales guy. You don't need to have loads of connections in any sort of space. There are ads that are set up for you. We have an entire team dedicated to finding ads for all the different type of writers on beehiiv. Jake writes about product. He writes about business, so they're slightly more product related ads. I'll show you in a second how easy it is to add an ad to your newsletter. It's super straightforward. We make it really, really easy. The way that you make money is done on clicks or the number of opens. That's auto billed. The money goes straight into your account. You keep 100% of the cash. There's no need to worry about invoicing or anything like that. And that goes through into your beehiiv wallet. You can then invest back into growth. Boosts, very similar to ads. As I mentioned, you're boosting other newsletter instead of your own. There's an entire network of opportunities. So you can see who's going to pay you. This person's going to pay you nearly $10 per subscriber that you send their way. All you need to do is click apply. You see the message saying, hey, we want to boost your newsletter. This is what my newsletter is about. There's a ton of different information about the newsletter, the size of the newsletter, how often they post, the language they're in. So you're boosting and promoting newsletters that align with your content and your brand. It's fantastic generating as much revenue from different ads. But if your readers are seeing ads and newsletters and brands that aren't necessarily related to them, they're not going to be as engaged. So this allows you to explore what works exactly for you. Next, products. So digital products. Jake's done pretty well here. He's added a load of different digital products. You can add consulting time, webinars, digital products, PDFs, links, whatever they might be. You can add those into your newsletter. I'll show you how you can add all of these into your newsletter. It's also worth mentioning that you can add these to your website. So in the nav bar at the top, you can have a link to the digital products. Excuse me, you can have a link to the digital products, and then your readers can explore a library of different products that you offer. It's not necessarily just sent out through emails. The email is the channel that you'll use to get in front of those people, say hi to their inbox, and then you still have the website that people can scroll and can explore. Paid subscriptions. Jake hasn't set this up yet. His newsletter is only a few months old, so he's not there just yet. What you can do is you can set up a range of different paid tiers. You pick exactly how you want that to be. Is it going to be monthly? Is it going to be quarterly? How much you're going to charge? Is there going to be any discount? Anything like that. All you need to do is connect to Stripe, create a Stripe account, connect that to your beehiiv, and then you can start generating revenue. It depends on the type of newsletter that you're writing. What can work really well and a really good top tip is if you're writing a newsletter where people can expense it on their company cards, for example, people can expense it with their company. Just going back on that mergers and acquisition newsletter that I mentioned, all of their paid subscribers are done through company emails and company cards. So if you can create a newsletter that has paid subscriptions and somebody else is paying, you're far more likely to increase the number of paid subscribers you get, and that's going to really help with your revenue. Ads are a great way of making money from free subscribers, so you can toggle on who's seeing the ad. Paid subscriptions is a great way of guaranteeing your revenue because you can set up annual payments, monthly, quarterly. You'll see here how much you're going to make, how much you're going to make this month, how much you're set to make for the year from the number of recurring subscribers. So you can then start investing in growing that newsletter.
Hey,
Now,
Luke.
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I cracked up because someone in the chat was like, "Does Luke need to have a glass of water or a breath?" And I'm
I will have a
wondering,
breath. Thank you very much.
I mean, it is so much valuable information. I'm just wondering, and tell me if you just want to keep rolling with it, but we
Yeah,
have boatloads of questions.
let's do
And
that.
I want to make sure that we can give credence and make sure we can get to as many questions as possible. And
Let's
then
do
if we
that.
have time, we can come back and like
That's
wrap up the
perfect because
show.
quite a lot of the time the questions can be answered by showing the platform as well.
Totally.
Let's go for
Totally. Okay. Have a drink of water because there's a lot of
it. I've
there's a
got a
lot of
big
questions.
one.
All right, let's do it. The first one, the one that keeps getting asked, why would I go to Beehive over Substack?
Fantastic question. Very valid. They're two, in transparency, they're two pretty different platforms. So
Mhm.
Substack's slightly older, it's slightly bigger, but Substack recently has moved away from the newsletter space to be a social media space. So Substack have released an app, which means that when you try and read a newsletter, they push readers to download the app. What this means that as a news, there's a couple of things that this means. First is that you don't actually own your audience. Then Substack will report on the number of users as opposed to the number of subscribers. When I am on somebody's Substack, I can click follow. Now that is just, then I have a feed and all of their content comes through in a feed. There's an algorithm. For example, Andrew Tate was ranked number one fairly recently on there. I think it was culture or business leaderboard. Not a great sign. So it's an algorithm-based platform now. If somebody subscribes to you and they're paying, you don't own that data. The Substack app owns that data, which is done through Apple Pay, things like that. So if you want to migrate, you lose those paid subscribers. The other thing is if you're wanting to make money, Substack takes 10% of your earnings. Beehive, there's 0% take on your earnings. We'll never change that. It's a more of a fully fledged product if you have a community. So you have a website, you can host a podcast, you can run a newsletter, you can sell products. Substack's more of a blog, in all honesty. You can't change the design. It's a bit more restricted. So in short, I could speak about this for honestly hours. In short, Beehive, you own your audience. You keep 100% of the revenue you make. There's no algorithm. A lot of people say, hey, I have a Substack, subscribe to my Substack. I've never heard that with Beehive. It's subscribed to the generalist world. It is my business. It is an entire business as opposed to, hey, you are just a pawn in our chessboard of Substack users. That's the TLDR, but I could honestly go on for hours about this.
And if anyone has follow-up questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or just DM Luke on LinkedIn. We will
Yeah,
share his LinkedIn with you.
yeah,
There's been a couple of questions that I just want to kind of name, and people are like, huh, this all sounds great, but I don't know what I'm going to write about. I don't know
yeah,
what my topic would be. And I wonder if you can kind of touch on that. I have some thoughts as well. And I'm also thinking it could be kind of fun to do like a follow-up session
yeah,
where it's just like peer feedback and
yeah.
like, oh, this is the kind of things I'm thinking about writing. What do you think? You know?
Yes. Yeah, that
But
sounds like a fantastic idea.
is there anything else you've seen or anything that comes to mind of people are kind of interested, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the topic would be?
Yeah, what I'd say is it's you want to write about something that it's kind of like a bit of a Venn diagram where the newsletter is in the middle of something you know about, something that you have information that is valuable to other people, and then something that you're passionate about. You're going to be investing some time into this newsletter. You're going to be writing about it. You can use it with Beehive, you can connect to the MCP, you can use AI to help with your newsletter. So you can connect Beehive to Claude, but at the core of it, it's your ideas, it's your writing. So you need to what I've seen newsletters work best in is the people that write them have the experience. They might have worked in a specific industry for a handful of years. They might live in a certain country. Like people write newsletters on local guides to specific cities. It can be whatever you want it to be, but you just need to have some information that is of value to the readers. And then you need to be passionate about it because you're going to be writing about it, you're going to be investing in it. And it is going to become a fully fledged business. People think that newsletters is a bit like a hobby. It can be, by all means. I have a friend who writes a newsletter on her experience of living in Spain. It's great. I love it, but it's not a business. But if you want it to be a business, it definitely can be. So you're going to be investing some time in it and providing something of value. Feel free to jump in.
Mhm. Yeah, I would add to that newsletters for me are the long game. It's like social media is how you get attention, and a newsletter uh, is how you build trust with people over the long term. And my top recommendation would be actually to spend more time than you think experimenting and landing on the format. That was like if I go back all those years when I started, I'm like, man, I really wish I just like nailed down the format because there's nothing worse than having like the blank page where you're like, what am I going to write this week? And now it's really simple. We just have the format. We have the job opportunities on Tuesday and the podcast, which is also hosted on Beehiiv on a Friday. So now we have an amazing newsletter writer, Mildred, who can just kind of like fill in the blanks, so to speak. And then every now and again, I will get this wave of inspiration, usually when I'm up on a hill. Like post productivity was an essay that I wrote recently. So if and when inspiration strikes, I'll do like a longer form. But that's kind of an inside tip. Really focus on that format, and it can like accelerate the blank page problem.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, creating a format, duplicating that each week makes it really, really, really easy to subscribe to generate and create. One thing I will change answer really quickly, but I want to just show you a newsletter can be about anything. Um, can you see my screen? No, it doesn't look like you can. Share. I just want to show you another colleague's newsletter. He writes a newsletter. He has 21,000 subscribers. It is photos of people's work from home setup. Really
Mm.
niche. He did it in lockdown. He's been doing it for about 5, 6 years. He just takes photos of people's works from home setups, interviews them, and writes a newsletter. He makes about $80,000 a year from this newsletter because there's advertisers, you can see a sponsor there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this crazy idea. You don't need to be spilling news on AI. It could be about something you're interested in. And then you find advertisers off the back of that who see the audience that you have and want to advertise. So it's very, very unique.
Mm. I love that newsletter too.
Yeah, it's a
That's
good one.
Ryan, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
Ryan
good.
Gilbert.
Okay, you want a spicy question? Shall we take a
Oh yeah,
spicy
let's
one?
go for it.
Do you think that newsletters will be relevant in 5 years?
Yes. So it's very, very interesting. I'd love to pull it up right now, but Tyler, our CEO, wrote a tweet about newsletters that there's always said the newsletter's going to die. It's the death. Oh, Instagram's come around, Twitter's come around, Threads have come around. Nobody has the time to read a newsletter. They're still going to be around in 5 years' time, and it's an extremely competitive space to be in at the moment. There are loads of different tools you can use because there are, as I touched on the opportunity at the start of that slide, every other person in the world has an email. Newsletters land directly in inboxes. As the world evolves and social media evolves, there's so many algorithms that dictate what you see. As a newsletter writer, you can be sure that what you want to present to the world will land in somebody's inbox. I love Instagram. I love TikTok. But if I was a TikToker, I would hit post, and I think it's about 5% of the views come from your audience. The other 95% come from randoms. A large portion of your audience never see your content. And as more and more social media platforms come into play, and as we continue down that path, newsletters have become more and more important if you want to get a message out.
Yeah, and I would also invite you to be curious about your own inbox. This is what I did at the beginning, where I was like, what are the newsletters that I'm opening? There's certain ones that you're like, I'm never missing opening the newsletter from this person. Why? What is it that they're doing? Why, what is, and it's not, maybe it's a subject line, but often it's like if you're going back to it again and again, it's because there's something juicy inside. So there's so much information. Everyone on here has an email address. Kind of just be curious about your own inbox and what's working, and you
Yeah,
don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can take like elements and apply that to your own newsletter. Um,
completely.
One question, like very technical and quick,
Yeah.
is the website the same functionality as something like Squarespace? Like, can I upload, say, vibe coded HTML files?
Yes. So on Beehive, I'll quickly share my screen. I will keep this very quick. You can. It's just like Squarespace. It's a drag and drop tool. Where are we? It's a drag and drop tool. So you could upload vibe coded HTML. If we just go on to add, where is it off the top of my head? Advanced blocks down here. So you can add RSS feeds, HTML. It's as simple as a drag and drop. You decide where you want that HTML to go, and it will plonk into your place, and you have the code.
Epic. One more technical quick question is, does Beehive offer filtered insights? For example, MPP open rates. I don't even know what MPP is.
Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure. We've written a blog about it. Apple Mail privacy protection. Um, I'm not sure if that off the top of my head. I will get back to you in a second on that one.
Nice. Some behind the scenes.
Yes.
Um, what there's a couple of questions kind of in the theme of advertising and taking on sponsors.
Yeah.
So the first is around that a lot of the sponsors seem to be quite tech and startup orientated, like HubSpot,
Yeah.
StoreClaw, etc. Are there any plans to bring sponsors from other industries to offer some more variety?
Yeah, completely. And there's a handful of different brands on Beehive, a handful, hundreds of different brands on Beehive. What I demoed you was a newsletter that is focused around product. So the ads that Jake's being sent are all around people in the product kind of space where things like Attio and HubSpot make sense. I brought across a fantastic subset creator called Amy Adele. She is in the fashion space. So we have fashion ads that you can run on Beehive as well. There are a handful in the business space because that's what the majority of newsletters on Beehive are and the majority of readers want. But there are brands across the spectrum. It's not just business.
Love. I saw this question and I have never considered this, but I wonder if you have any examples of it. Uh, do you have any examples of a newsletter being used for like internal company use? So like company update wins.
Yes, completely. That's very, very, very normal. So with Beehive, if it's an internal email, if you're not working a super huge organization, Beehive's free to use up to 2,500 subscribers. So at the core of Beehive, it's typically a newsletter where you can grow, generate money. We want it to create a tool that people can use to form a business off the back of a newsletter. That said, people use it for all use cases. As I mentioned before, my friend has a newsletter about her experience of living in Spain. She sends that just to her friends and her family. Instead of sending out messages, memos, she just writes a newsletter. We are onboarding a creator. I can't say who just yet, but we're onboarding a creator. And I've been working with their team. And when I logged into their account to see the creator's newsletter, what they were building, I saw that they actually used Beehive for their talent agency internal email. So that's very, very normal. It allows you, with Beehive, you can create the template and as Millie said, once you have that template set up, you duplicate it, filter it, change it around. So you can use Beehive for that, and it's completely free.
Awesome. There's been a couple of questions around if someone already has a website. If you
Yeah.
already have a website and it's hosted somewhere, how does that work? Can it be embedded or can Beehive be a self-hosted website somewhere else?
Good question. So what people typically do when they come to Beehive or they start a newsletter, they try and aggregate everything under one roof. Saves logins, saves payments. With Beehive, you pay one fee. Well, you might not pay if you are on the free plan, but if you're on a paid plan, for example, you just pay one fee and you get everything with that. So you can still keep your Squarespace and your Wix, but then you'll be paying for two platforms. So most people bring it across that we don't have like a website imported just yet. But what most people typically do, because it's a drag and drop, they will just recreate what's been done on their Squarespace, for example, on their Beehive. Once you're comfortable with the tools, it really, really doesn't take long at all. You just have the two next to each other and saves you having to do two payments. If you have a newsletter on another platform, you can bring that content across through a download CSV and upload. Super straightforward, but the website is created piece by piece.
Awesome. There's a really great question here, and it's kind of around the anxiety of actually migrating your newsletter. So let's say you've built it somewhere else. It sounds like this person has actually built it on social, maybe. I don't know if it's on LinkedIn,
Okay,
uh, but they have got a 95% of their subscribers from that platform itself. So they're just feeling nervous about if
sure.
they move it. their audience is already over there. Do you have any suggestions on how they can keep building their network on Beehive? And is there a magic subscriber number that you recommend someone has before they shift
Yes.
to Beehive?
I'm going to be very biased when I say this. I think the magic subscriber number is as soon as possible. Um, you can, so I've migrated people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. It's really straightforward to do. You download all of your contacts and import them into Beehive. It honestly takes a couple of minutes. And all of the content that you have, if you're on Substack, WordPress, Kit, Ghost, MailChimp, a couple of others, you can download all of the newsletters you've previously written and import them into your Beehive. So when you come across, you have an archive of all of your historical posts. Looks like you've been on Beehive the whole time. You're not losing anything like that. I migrated somebody called Chrissy the other day. She was using, off the top of my head, I think it was called Flowdesk. I'm not 100% sure. And what she did, as Millie said, she created a template. We weren't able to mass import all of her content. So we created a template and just copied and pasted across. It didn't take long at all. Pulling the trigger is understandably a big decision. You've built the subscribers on a platform, you're used to the UX, all of the things like that. The thing about Beehive is once you migrate across, you have all of your subscribers still there, your content's still there, and then you can take advantage of the growth tools and of the monetization tools. So there's no magic number necessarily. Let's say, for example, you're benefiting from a platform where you're not ready to monetize just yet. When you're ready to monetize, then that could be a good time to pull the trigger. But there's no specific answer.
Fantastic. I can see we've got a hand raised. I think we should spend the last like couple of minutes doing that. Just one question. I mean, there's so many. We unfortunately are not going to be able to get to them all, but please do follow up with Luke.
Yeah.
Do you have any pricing programs for like NGOs?
Pricing, I'm not, are you able to rephrase the question a second? We have, if that person who's raised that question is happy to share a little bit more information, I'll quickly start to answer that before. We have a handful of different tiers. I saw a question pop up, which was about what's the difference between free plan and paid plan. So there's four different tiers on Beehive. You have launch, which is completely free. You get the newsletter, you get the website, you get the podcast, you get essentially everything you need to kick off the newsletter. Doesn't cost you anything, and it's free up to 2,500 subscribers. When you hit 2,500 subscribers, you need to upgrade. There's three options: scale, and enterprise. Scale gives you access to all of the monetization tools. So you can start making money on Beehive through ads, paid subscriptions, boosts, things like that, digital products. You have more advanced automations, create surveys and polls, things like that. Free is best for somebody dipping their toe in, getting used to the newsletter. Is it right for them? Once you're ready to start making money and start growing the newsletter, you'd upgrade. So scale is when you're just getting started. Max is more advanced. You can remove the Beehive branding. You can have a sponsored storefront to attract advertisers outside of our ad network, have one-on-one consulting time, audio newsletters. I'll share the Beehive pricing page in the follow-up email as well. And the last one is enterprise. Maybe this covers the NGO question a little more. That's for anybody with over 100,000 subscribers. If there's a huge audience, you get a customer success manager as part of that. They work with multiple different newsletters and can offer you the insights on growth, monetization, what's working, what's not, what are people doing that other people are not doing, and you have the access to that resource. So it depends on the number of subscribers you have, how much money you're willing to invest. If you're just getting started, launch is perfect. If you're looking to turn this into a revenue generating machine, scale and max work. And if it's a fully fledged business where you need a customer success manager, enterprise works for you.
Thanks, Luke. And again, if anyone has any specific questions about their exact use case, just DM Luke after this. I would love to get Alejandro up. Can we unmute, please, Edger? And feel free to raise your hand. We might be able to take like two questions, depending on how chunky they are.
Wait, I am
Oh,
finding the thing, but also we lost the hand raise just now.
Oh,
Kareem, I quickly saw a question. I'll quickly answer it. Yes, you can have multiple publications under one account. So you just have your overall account and you can have a publication on AI, a publication on product, a publication on football news, all under one account. Sorry, I just saw that pop up and thought I'd answer it while we
Good.
went.
Shall we go, Christian, while we find? I'm not sure if Alejandro lowered his hand.
Hey,
Hi,
Christian.
thanks a lot. I'm curious about the Activity Pub, the social web aspect to Beehive, and how you think about Posse, Publish Once, Syndicate Everywhere, and
Yeah,
any of the other strategies for getting out through non-algorithmic and much more wholesome, ways of reaching people than through giant tech companies. Thanks.
definitely. Good questions. So it's important to note that Beehive isn't an algorithmic business. So what I was mentioning with Substack, they have an app. They have charts, and there's a feed. With Beehive, there's no sort of app or feed. Beehive is the platform that allows you to write the newsletter, build a website, publish. Every newsletter you send goes through to your own website and goes through to people's inboxes. There's no kind of leaderboard or algorithm. We've done this intentionally. We don't want Beehive to turn into another social platform with an algorithm. So in terms of finding subscribers, we have those tools that allow you to grow. That's within the Beehive network. So when I subscribe to Millie can recommend up to 4 different newsletters. There's no algorithm there. It's very, very purposeful. The boosts, that allows your newsletter to be discovered in other newsletters. And then you can also use, you said you're not interested in using social media, but you can use things like lead magnets that allow people to subscribe and get something of value. But there's no algorithm with Beehive. There's no sort of Beehive homepage where you can sort of scroll through different newsletters.
And I'll just like plus one to I really like dislike the word lead magnet. It always feels a bit like I don't love it. I like to think of it as a value exchange. So who here has taken the generalist quiz? Awkward if no one has taken it. 50,000 people have taken the generalist quiz, and it was designed by one of our members, Ramiro, who's an organizational psychologist. And when you find this lead magnet or a value exchange, that has driven by far, most of our subscribers. And so, yeah, I would encourage you, if you're leaning away from the socials, kind of like look at what is the thing that people keep asking? What is like the annoying thing that you can help solve for people? How can you give them language? How can you help them get on their next step? If you can package that into a quiz, a PDF, a website, whatever it might be, the value exchange, I think, is the wholesome way of welcoming people in to your network.
Completely. Yeah. And it all goes back to that thing. What value can you provide someone? And in exchange, you get their email. If you have something of value, people are more than willing to subscribe and learn more.
I just want to call out. So, one of the fun little traditions we do for summer school is we don't want this to end here. So, like, there's
Okay.
been a fire hose of information. Hopefully, we're all going to go on a walk afterwards and like let it digest. But we want you guys to be able to connect with each other. So, I'm going to talk to Edger and Luke about having a follow-up session, which can be more like workshoppy. I think that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
But we have also just posted on LinkedIn. So my challenge to you is, Edger will drop the link. Go and say hi, say where you are in your newsletter journey, share a takeaway, big hype up Luke for like that amazing session. And then don't stop there. Go and connect with someone. Go and look through and be like, oh my gosh, they're also writing about cats in Ohio, whatever it might be. And be like,
Well,
oh,
I
what do I
think
think about?
people already started sharing their newsletters with each other, so we can keep doing that on LinkedIn as well.
This is it. We're going to get recommendations from each other. This is how you grow in a wholesome way. I love that angle. We probably have time for one last quick question. If anyone is feeling brave and anyone wants to raise their hand, now is your moment. Woohoo, Kareem, welcome, welcome.
Hi. I kind of brought this up in the chat, but I did my question's mostly as a 23-year-old. Um, it is hard to figure out what the value is. Like I'm still learning, there's a lot of experience. But has there been any newsletters that are more kind of like a slice of life that like let's say
Mm.
follows the journey of someone as they grow to the point where then they provide value? Is that something that
Mm.
seems
Com-
interesting or has been done before? Because that's something
completely.
where I'm interested in, where like maybe people follow me on this journey and then maybe when I get to the point where I feel like I provide good value, that's when I start another newsletter.
Yes, completely. Good question. You're providing value the entire time. So
Hmm.
Tyler, our CEO, started a newsletter with Beehive. He wasn't the founder of a company at that point. Well, technically he was, but he was a founder. There was him and two other founders. They had no employees, zero revenue, and he created a newsletter, which is his big thing is build in public. People love to know the ins and the outs. And in 5 years' time, when you do have a ton of experience and you are really successful, you can say, I've been writing a newsletter about this entire journey. Tyler's subscribers have been up and up and up. He's at about 130,000 now. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your polished product. Only then can you start writing. A friend writes one about living in Madrid. Ryan posts photos of desks. It can be about come with me on the journey of my career, of starting my own business, whatever that might be. And what can be really valuable is sharing your wins and your losses. What have you failed and what have you learned from? People then can learn from that off the back of it. So there's no sort of, you don't have to hit a milestone before you can start a newsletter.
Love that. And yeah, like don't discount that you already have value and you already have knowledge and wisdom, and someone even one or two steps behind you can find huge amount of inspiration and utility from seeing like even someone, sometimes honestly, it's better. You know, when you read about someone and they're like 10 steps ahead and you're like, that's unrelatable. I don't know. That it doesn't resonate with me. But we can maybe dig into it more in the workshop. Thank you for your question. We've come to time. We're actually a little bit over, so thank you so much for everyone for joining us. We're going to be hosting one more session later today, and that's about podcasting. So if you want to nerd out on podcast, I'm going to go have a little dinner, and then we're going to get into the podcast conversation. Luke, thank you so much.
Not
You
at
guys
all.
are the
Thank you.
best.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone for spending the last hour with us. I will see you on LinkedIn and then I will see you at our next summer school session.
Thank
See
you
you
everyone for
later.
joining.
Thanks. See ya.